But did you know in the Cretaceous period, I could be wrong, could be the Jurassic, but I think it's Cretaceous, that we had 7 minutes more time in the day?
No, I didn't know that.
So when you think about it,
what does that mean?
actually...
what is it doing up there?
what is it doing? It's actually, did you know, one, it was a huge fact was, during the Japanese earthquake, the land mass actually moved 13 feet towards America. Now that effect was so huge, it actually moved the Earth's axis. So every time, and this is part of another chapter I'm doing on polar shifts, and we are going through the polar shift, by the way. And basically, every time there's a new moon, or a full moon rather, you know that the police and the hospitals put more staff on because the nuts come out, and because we're mostly water. And every time the water actually ellipses the earth, and because it distorts the earth. So every time there's a full moon, it's actually moving the earth, the water mass. So the axis is actually fractionally moving. So ever since that time, ever since we've had water and the moon interaction, we've actually been moving the axis of the earth. So that's what I mean about, I'm not only talking, Martha, about the actual woo-woo side, but I am bringing a lot of the physics side on it. Yes, it is true.
Moved.
Thank you.
And that affects the time.
Yes, and the time that's a physical aspect of it, but there is a spiritual aspect where it's not even spiritual. It is. They'll prove it later, but we are moving on a faster track, I'm afraid.
Okay. Yes.
So enjoy the time that you have now.
Do you have to stay up with it? What happens if we
No.
can't?
You can expand time.
Some of that's right. We can do that again. But some of us, it's very difficult to change.
Yes, it is.
Or maybe we're a little bit more
entrenched in our,
or we're just a little more nostalgic, or we're a little more comfortable with things in a certain way. We're not all big pathfinders or big.
You're right.
Heads, so
it is difficult, and that is something why a lot of you'll see a lot of depression coming in with people, and that's a massive shift. Depression. I've got a few things on depression, and actually, it's a good thing. I think depression, if it's not clinical, is a great thing.
I was telling my husband today that I had heard that you said it was a good thing.
Yeah.
And why? I know not clinical, but
yes, not clinical.
Okay. What type of depression?
Let me explain.
What does it do?
Okay, depression actually comes and visits you in times when, especially the worst ones, and these are the people who usually come and see me, is because they're so close to the tree they're kissing the bark, or they don't see the forest.
Yeah.
So that's why we help them through. But basically, depression puts you in like a rat in a maze. You're so trained to go down this and that to go and ring the bell or get the food. But what depression does, what does it do? It makes you evict people from your life. It makes you want to be a hermit. It really makes you solitary. And it also implodes you. In other words, all you're thinking about is yourself. And we're so big, we're not watching TV, we're not on the internet, we're not having with all this extraneous stuff around us. We actually are so isolated. And we've got, especially in this day and age, Martha, so we implode and start thinking about ourselves. What makes us happy? And that's all they want, Martha, is for you to be the happiest person, to find what your truth is.
Looking at that.
So really, depression's a great thing. Not when you're in it.
Well,
but
yes.
I know.
Sorry. Like you said, relatively.
Yes.
Do certain illnesses say, or like people? By the way, we do have time for one more quick question. If you'd like to call in, I know it's not working like usual, so this time. But do call in and just right away to ask your question. But let me just say, ask you if certain kinds of illnesses also do that. Like someone say who was extremely busy and active and doing stuff, and then they get something where they chronic fatigue or something like that.
Yes, it closes down, correct.
What does that do? Or they lose a loved one, and so then they pull in.
Okay,
what would you say?
That's also, to a certain level, what they're doing is restructuring.
Okay.
And that's what I call part of the debarking process. And yes, it's hard when they lose a loved one, but it's also when they move, please, if anybody's, when people are listening to this, when they transfer to the other side, they are more alive. On the other side, you know that, Martha. And they're more vibrant, they don't have the aches and pains, they don't have the tenseness. Please talk to them. They're always around you. You've always been surrounded by these wonderful people. and great sense of humor, by the way.
Yeah,
And
you're talking my stuff.
yeah, really, we're the butt of their jokes most of the time. But basically,
we are.
yes, we are. We do some silly things. But basically, yes. And if they get an illness, not to be Pollyanna and say, things happen for reasons, but I really do feel they do.
Yes.
And it's important for us to backtrack, because how many thousands of readings I read. You can, when you start standing back, you say, okay, well, if this didn't happen and that didn't happen and this one, you wouldn't be in this place, and restructuring, even to the point of losing your house, home, and gosh, whatever. Not that's the extreme cases.
Yes.
But
Well,
people
like these
these days, you're
It's
right,
happening.
their jobs are going, but they're rethinking things. So that's part of spirits squeezing the head a bit. Not to blame them for anything, they're not doing it purposely. We have choices with everything.
Yes, we
So
do.
you know that.
We definitely do, but we can be guided along if we
Yes.
open up and ask. And sometimes it's like one little step at a time through these economic times.
Yes.
Just getting
The
through.
baby steps.
Yeah.
But there's so much potential out there. Just know that spirits around you, and through this dark tunnel, because I know a lot. 80% of the people watching would be going some form of a transition in a dark tunnel, but it's really, they're never alone. And that's what I use the candle lesson for. So
Well, sometimes, even though we're definitely encouraging ourselves and others to move forward and to do that, sometimes we're like over anxious, and it takes some
Yes.
patience. And
Yeah.
that's one thing that my standard joke is, God, give me patience and give it to me now.
that's
Okay,
cute.
and I had one person that said, I don't ask for patience because then I'm afraid I'll get back to
Yeah, no.
And yet sometimes we
sweet.
wait for other things. We wait for a
Yeah.
baby to be fully formed
You're
before
right.
that can be born. And so sometimes we're really anxious and we're not quite ready.
Mhm.
I know that's happened with me. I thought I was ready for certain things.
Oh.
And I was needing to go through this training, this period to even be able to get there.
So beautifully put.
Yeah.
No,
Thank you.
exactly,
I'm
Martha.
taking yours.
No,
Thank you.
no. Yeah, it's contagious. But no, thank you. That's exactly it. People have to realize that we are our own worst enemies sometimes in our life. That they know what they want us to do and what is the right time. Just like in the candle lesson about lottery winners, why do they lose their money or they're bankrupt within a year? Because they weren't ready for it. They hadn't learned the lessons for how to manage it. So basically, I use that as a good lesson.
I
Parody.
met years ago, I was in a beauty shop getting my hair done, and there was two people that had, one of them, like their sister had won the lottery, and another one, someone very close, and they were both broke. They were both broke because they didn't have that consciousness that you're talking about, that being
Beautifully
able
put.
to manage it. And so then you're just, oh, look what I've got, and pretty soon you're in the hole, or waiting for that next check to come in.
See, and
So
they
we have
don't
to be
learn.
ready, don't we?
Yes, we do, and
Yes.
we get in our own way, unfortunately. But patience, and that's that word, and I totally agree with you. I'm just as bad as you on the patience, and we're so impatient because we want to do so
I
much.
often wonder, I am, but why? I mean, we've got a lot of time ahead.
Oh, yeah.
I want to be fully formed, right? And
Yes,
really able to
exactly.
balance
But
it.
remember, Martha, you're far ahead. No offense to any certain people, but you're far ahead on your spiritual path. But and even where we are here, we are still impatient. Even though we can see so much ahead, we're still impatient.
Yes, we are. We're still impatient, but things happen.
Oh, yeah.
to make sure that we're ready.
Yeah, and to
there's
confirm
certain jobs
us.
where people learn patience, actually, in this physical plane and in their jobs and so forth. They have to do things to be patient and to make it work. And
Training, baby steps.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're
well,
right.
We've got about just a few more minutes
Oh,
left.
you're kidding, really?
No,
Wow.
I'm not kidding. And I'm telling you, I don't know if there's time for another call right now.
What happened
but
to
there's
time there?
time to talk a little bit more. Okay. So let's just, we talked a little bit about the economic future, didn't we?
Yeah, no, we really didn't
No,
cover
well,
it.
sure.
Let's
We
go
were
over
in with
I know. The economy, especially in California, since we're here, I do feel it'll start, and I did say predicted correctly, it did start gearing up last November on the housing. Tiny bit, it's only on a tiny bit of an upturn. But basically, regarding stock market, if you want to look